Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tapping the Flow podcast with your host, singer-songwriter, music producer, and of course, podcast host, Stephen Hodd. This week, I was joined by a very, very inspiring young woman, Zoe Hayter. Zoe is an English-Czech singer-songwriter, musician, theatre, film and street performer, currently based between Ireland, the UK and France. She has been on and off the road, I guess, from the age of 14, hanging out with the likes of Glenn Hansard, involved in many creative pursuits, part of the Footsbarn Theatre Company, no less. And indeed, her grandfather is the great Paddy Hayter, who many of you will know from Footsbarn being on the road in Ireland and from Miles O'Reilly's beautiful documentaries. I've been a huge fan of the Footsbarn Theatre for many years, as soon as I saw Paddy doing his thing. And indeed, its impact in Ireland and on that folk scene, singer-songwriter scene, and sort of breaking new waves has been hugely influential on me and reminded me of why I like so much to be in nature and also to be thrashed by the Atlantic wind. Zoe has just released a phenomenal mini album which she recorded in Glenn Hansard's house a couple of years ago. It has been hugely and warmly appreciated by the likes of Fiachna Brennan and people like that, just because it is a very honest, truthful recording by someone who comes from a very real place. Now, I'm going to say she was so inspiring to me. I think that young people have a real ability, at least in Zoe's case, to thrive in the moment, to be very grateful of that moment. And I find myself, as I get older, having to remind myself to be grateful of the moment. And I would have thought it would have been the other way around, but I firmly feel from having spoken with Zoe that music is in very safe hands. She is going to be one to watch for many years to come. I'd firmly implore you to go and watch her live. I think her live shows are going to be something spectacular. Because she just, as I said, is in the moment and has this, I don't know, it's hard to describe it other than to say it reminds me of what I used to feel like when I wrote songs many years ago. They would come out and I'd be like, yes, I have this thing here. And for the past few years, I've fallen out of that position. But since I headed to the studio myself at the end of last year, I have firmly come back into contact with what that feels like. So it's nice to be connected with someone who's also living in that sort of sense of being. I'd like to thank Zoe for coming on the show. Before we crack into the podcast, you're going to hear a beautiful song of hers called Side Effect that she wrote when she was 15. So here you are, take it away. Zoe Hayter.
Done a lot of living, I've done a lot of living now. I've done a lot of falling, I've done a lot of falling down. But if I stumble once in a while, let's say, my trouble is just a side effect. I'm tired of waiting by your door. And I'll be dreaming of never growing old. And if I stumble once in a while, let's say, my trouble is just a side effect. I'll be lonely lying in your arms. It'll be easy dying by your side. And if we stumble once in a while, let's say, our struggles just a side effect.
It's nice to meet you. I've been listening a lot to your recordings and your music, and I'm just gonna. I always try and find somewhere to jump in, right, a diving in point. And there's one of your songs, "Annie, See You Later," and it's such a personal thing to listen and to look at the lyrics, and it sounds like you're speaking directly to a person. It's almost like you're communicating directly with someone, and it's not about it being a song. It's almost like a way of speaking to someone. And you've got these words: "There was never a promise nor a regret. It only got as messy as it can get. And I told you I wasn't good with words. The right ones only come once you've left. And I won't hold my breath, just hope to see you again. And I'll never forget the way you said my name. All I wanted was to jump off that cliff and fall into you forever. Stay here till the dead of night. Sing that old Cohen song over and over." And it's incredible to hear that, right? When you read it out like that, it's like you're speaking directly to this person's ears. But there's a sadness in that, right? And there's an acceptance of how life is. Like, life acts without consideration for how we're going to feel about it. And this is the power of music, the flow of a river, right? From the source of pain into the light. And this is you being yourself, right? Obviously, to get to that point, we need to discuss how you started in your creative journey. But given the fact that you grew up in such an incredibly immense amount of creative action, you've managed to find your own space in that song, right? This is somehow you've shut out all of that creative energy around you and honed in on yourself. How did you get to that point through all the noise?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad. This is really this is a very nice surprise of you bringing up this song in particular, because it's I'm not going to talk about the whole record for now, but there's a very specific way that came together already. But that song, because the whole let's call it an EP, because it's 6 songs. There's songs that I wrote when I was 15, 16, and then this song was actually written, and I think everything you just said really reflects that, and it's because we were touring with my grandparents, with my traveling theatre family, basically, around Ireland, with one of the last show so far we've done, possibly the last show we'll ever do like that, with still kind of some of the old crew. My grandparents were there, and it was an Irish story, so of course we more than anything wanted to tour it in Ireland after we did it in France. And we had the great pleasure of having Glenn Hansard and Brendan Begley doing the music for it, which was lovely, because a lot of the time in Footsbarn, it's, everyone kind of does everything in the music and stuff. And here we had these Irish masters join us, on the journey. And that was kind of my first big tour I've ever gone on, and it wasn't, you can call it big, you can call it small. It was just kind of 3 weeks going around Ireland, but for me, that's what really made me, I think that was the breaking moment that gave me the confidence in knowing I can really, that's what I want to do in life, and I want to perform and I want to do shows, because we were sold out every night, and I was playing one of the main parts in the play, and it was like 400 people there, every night. And then after me and Glenn were kind of curating these musical moments, when we were getting people up on stage and stuff. And I just ended up meeting loads of people, going from town to town. And obviously, that was 2022, so I was 20. And I just had the time of my life, and I think in every kind of aspect of just living in the moment and not really being bothered about what happens. And that was before I realized how small Ireland is, and that basically you can meet someone in Dingle and very easily run into them in Galway the next day, which I wasn't quite aware of back then.
There's a high chance of that, yeah.
Yeah, I know very well now. But yeah, so I guess I was in a very kind of important moment in my life, and then I was meeting all of these people, and I kind of in my head I was like this circus girl that could just mess around and then leave and then do it again the next day and then leave and then not let's say not really go in deeper, not catch those feelings or whatever. And then and then I just had this encounter where I just was like, okay, this is actually, like, that's what I say in the song, like, this is someone I would like to see in the daylight, rather than running around in the dark tent with the lights and the magic and all of that. But so I was going through all of this really, and it was the most intense 3 weeks ever, because it felt like 3 months, because with Footsbarn already you're on the road, you're like really closely with people, because you all share so much. And then in this tour, like, we had, my great uncle would have died when we were playing in Galway. Then when we were playing in Dingle, before the Begley's family house burned down, then like Glenn's baby was about to be born. So there was all these elements of like life, death and fire and love and passion, and the not knowing if we were ever going to tour again like that. So I was just coming off of all of that, and I was studying in Paris then, so I still had a couple of weeks before going back. And I was just completely, like, I felt like my whole life has turned around, because of going through all of that. And then, I mean, I'm still very young now, but as I said, I was 20 then, and I was just, kind of had just moved to Paris by myself and all of that. So it was very intense. So anyway, the place that I just kind of felt connected the most, and that I just really was in love with, but also that the person from the song was in, so that probably influenced it a lot, was Dingle. So I went back to Dingle by myself for a week. I stayed in Brendon's little house, and we went swimming every day, and I just went walking down the beach and just reflected on everything, and then I don't know, whatever hopes or whatever I had that I thought was going to get resolved by me just walking around there. But anyway, I ended up meeting up with Annie, and we had this really lovely, discussion by the water and sitting on the rocks. The day we sat on the rocks, that's how the song starts. And it was purely, and I would have, as I said, all these songs on the record are a bit older, but this one, it really simply was just having that conversation, walking away from it, was, as I say in the song, not wanting to say goodbye, but maybe just see you later, see you another time, and so just I went into these lovely gardens in Dingle by the church, by St. Mary Church, is it? I don't know, but it's just this really peaceful spot. And I had my I didn't even have my proper guitar. I had a Martin backpacker that Glenn gave me. That's just this tiny little thing, but I was carrying it with me everywhere, because I was just like, this is my safe thing. So I pulled it out, and in a space of 20 or 30 minutes, I dropped the E string to D, which is something I've never done either. And I just started playing, and this just came out. And I think in a way it was, as you said there, like, the right words, the right ones only come when you've left. Like, I don't really know if I said anything during our conversation or what I wanted to say, and then I just sat down and I said it all then, in the song. I just wrote it, and then I recorded it. I remember sending it to Glenn, and he was like, that's a song, of real sorrow and all of that. And yeah, I'm really glad you brought it up, because I actually am very fond of that song, and somehow I feel like it gets, for me, it doesn't get the attention sometimes I would like it to get. I was totally obsessed with it for a while, because I just really loved the turnarounds. I said, like, there was never a promise nor regret, it only got as messy as it can get. Like, I was obsessed with those lines, and and then I sang it to Annie, and I wrote the lyrics on on a piece of paper, and I left it with, you know, at the place where she works and all of that, and then I hadn't seen her for ages, and we parted ways and all of this. But like, I guess, yeah, for me that song is still very important, because I think it was, I mean, you would know definitely, like, whenever you write something and you're like, wow, this is even better than the last thing I did, and you always want to do better and better, and somehow that felt like one of those where I was really like, yeah, I suppose everything, I know this was a very long explanation, but I guess I felt like I needed to explain the point I was at in life when I was writing that down, you know, and it was one of those that just, it was very clear. I was like, this is what I wanted to say. And you know how a lot of the time you have to craft with songs afterwards, you still keep editing little bits here and there. And really, when we recorded it, it was just the one thing me and Glenn changed, because he was recording it with me, was the line about jumping, you know, he into the cliff and stuff, because he was like, let's make that second part all really dramatic, you know, and say something completely like, you know, jump off the cliff and fall into you forever, and you know, so that's something that line, and then the Cohen line wouldn't have been there from the beginning, but then it makes perfect sense, because I, you know, the first night we were we had our little bartend there, and I was just singing Leonard Cohen songs till the morning, so there's nothing that's untrue about it, you know.
That's the thing I get from it, is that you're not acting when you sing in that song at all. You're living in the moment, and I think that's why it's such a nice one for you to sing, because it's quite simple in the chords, although there's nothing simple about putting that emotion into them to support you while you get the message across. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like when you're an actress, like you act, that's what you've been doing from a very early age, but when you're singing your songs, you're not acting, you're living in the moment, and this is where you distinguish yourself from your background, isn't it? What was it like growing up in that sort of environment? Before we come back to the rest of the album, let's dive back. So you were born into the Footbarn Circus, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this I could talk about this for a very long time. It's a funny one for me, because I'm kind of I'm both in the middle of growing up completely in that and not, and then also in mid-generation of them, because all my cousins and my siblings would have been a lot younger, because what happened is to give you a tiny bit of it, in 2001 basically Footbarn was going through Czech Republic. So my dad would have only been, you know, very young. He would be 16 actually. And he was like the youngest. He was already the youngest of his generation, you know, my grandparents and everything. He was the youngest kid. And he, you know, obviously they were all doing everything. So they were in the shows. He's a set designer actually. So he was making the set and everything. But anyway, there was this girl in Czech, in Brno, who was a very passionate theater maker as well, and she's had very good French, so she started translating for them and stuff, and that turned out to be my mom, you know. So they they just kind of passed through the town, you know, and my dad and my mom met when they were very, very young, and the circus kind of went on, you know. My mom stayed on in Czech, and you know, found out she was pregnant and went to her parents, and so she stayed over there whilst, you know, they just went on traveling. So when I was born, which was a bit of a, you know, very, very much an unplanned thing in many ways, you know, because yeah, my dad would have been 17 and my mom was about 21, 22 when I was born. So there was a lot of that going on as well, you know, and it was kind of, I think everyone was a bit in between panicking and in between, I don't know, you know, it was a moment. And then, I think little by little I was finding my place in between. Like my mom had 4 theater jobs when I was growing up, so whenever I was with her, I was always in a theater, you know, in Czech. And then and then I started going over to, I suppose I spent a bit more time with my grandparents, because my dad was very young, but with his parents. So then whenever I went to France, I was always, or it was France and England, we were always kind of moving around and touring. So I kind of got the both worlds of still, you know, going to normal school, although I never felt very normal over there because, you know, I was always a bit different. But I was going to school and then I was traveling with them when I could. So a few months a year I would have been on the road, and then I would have had that kind of more steady life, which is really interesting then for me, because it's, you know, you kind of, I suppose you learn how to adapt to both ways. You know, you can be in the completely wild, just, you know, my tiny bed on their caravan bench, you know, that was it. And then be in the kind of, you know, more civilized world, let's call it. But I always just had the best time. I mean, I'm not really technically even Irish, even though I felt like that, because I felt so welcomed by everyone here. But yeah, my dad's English then, so that's like, I don't know, I would be like English, Czech, French, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, that's the first time I came to Ireland was with Footsbarn. I started coming when I was 14, and I came on so many different tours, and that's what really brought me, you know, I think that's where I really started finding myself, because so I had great opportunities to travel with them. And we did this interview with Glenn and Brendan during the tour where he asked me that. He was like, how is it touring with your grandparents, you know? And it's such a specific thing, because load of other, and as I said, I feel kind of honored, because a lot of my, you know, cousins and siblings, they wouldn't be doing this anymore. And as I said, you know, of course it's my grandparents, so I don't know how much longer it's going to go on for that matter, but I still got to join them in that, like, we all got to share the stage, you know, like my grandfather's an amazing actor, so it was amazing to play with him and to act with him. And it's just a very different life to perhaps all other grandchildren who just go to their grandparents, they have tea and chocolate, and I don't know what they do, you know, but we definitely don't do that. We do.
I've seen Come On Up to the House, right? That's that's phenomenal. Like, I have watched that many times. And so your grandfather is Paddy, right? Paddy Hayter.
Paddy Hayter.
He's a unique creature, isn't he? A totally unique human being on the planet.
Oh yeah. No, but that's the whole story, is, you know, how because our relationship with Glenn has been very amazing, and that's a huge connection. I mean, I met Glenn when I was 10. That's a whole other story. But he was the one who really, like, completely opened my eyes in music and in art, you know, and gave me that passion. But it all started when in 2008, Paddy, they were playing in Belfast, and he never takes his makeup off after the show. And there's a few reasons, you know. One is that he can be arsed, but one is that it's like, if he has those huge eyebrows and this white on his face and he walks into a room, there's no one that won't notice him, you know. So he walked into a bar like that straight after the show, of course, ordered a pint. And Glenn was like, who are you? I want to know you. I want to be your friend, you know. And they, of course, got utterly drunk. But because the first thing that Paddy said, as very proudly as he would, is, I'm Paddy Hayter, you know? And calling yourself a Paddy Hayter with a very, very thick British accent in Ireland.
Just got that.
It's a bit of a thing in itself, you know? So that was pretty hilarious. And then they very nicely continued the relationship, and that was great. And then, I mean, I just loved... It's only been amazing. Like, even though, you know, being on the road with Footsbarn is like, it can go any way, as I just said. It can end with fire and death and love and thankfully never hate, but there's a lot of, you know, so it gave me so much. Like, I always felt I don't know, this is a funny thing to say about myself, but I always felt a bit of an old soul, you know. And already then growing up like that was even more like, I never had friends my own age or whatever, and that's when music really helped me, because I could just express myself in that way. So, you know, like with the song we mentioned, like, I just sat down and it was better than a therapy session. It just suddenly all went out, and then suddenly there's a beautiful song, you know. And we always kind of got the space to express ourselves like that in Footsbarn. So yeah.
You said something earlier. You said Glenn gave you the magic. How did he? What was and I understand the magic of Irish singer-songwriters. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's such a heartwarming, honest representation of all the things you described: the fire, the love, the destruction, all that sort of thing. how much did Glenn help you then? He must have helped you in terms of being able to handle your talent, right? Your creative need to express yourself.
Well, it was very simple in a way. Like, what happened is that I've already kind of, explained how even my childhood was. Yeah, it was a bit of a funny one. And my mom was amazing, like doing incredibly well considering all the circumstances. But she was working a lot, and we just moved to Prague. I was 10, and that was right after I met Glenn during a festival where we were playing with Futzbarn in the summer in France. So that was 2012. And already, like, just seeing him, there was something, because I knew I was a very, very shy kid, basically, which is something I can hardly believe myself by this point. But, even though I had that maturity about me, like, I just remember kind of being a little bit, like, pushed away and a bit lost. And kids need attention and time, and they need that sort of, and I've worked with kids a bit, and I know just when you give a kid just a bit of your time and your attention, like, they fall in love with you. They're like, wow, this person is doing something for me, and unfortunately, this is not me at all talking badly of anyone, but I didn't have a lot of that as a kid somehow, because there was so much happening already. And then I just saw Glenn in France, we were sitting by the fire, and he was just playing all these Dylan songs, over and over. And it was nice because for him, he was in a kind of a cool space as well, because he wasn't bothered by anyone, it wasn't like, oh my God, that's Glenn Hansard. So it was just this really chill, just him playing songs by the fire. And I just remember that moment when I was like, oh my God, I just fell in love with the whole kind of feeling. Like, there was, something that he just saw me kind of, really being interested, and really kind of in a very shy way trying to approach him, and just watching the way his hands move, his, everything he does. And he was, his partner was, they were living in Prague together. So basically, it was kind of perfect for me the same way. Like, we just moved in, and my mom was really busy, and he just was like, let me know I'm in town, whatever. And we just ended up, he just took me out, and we went to guitar shops, and, he showed me how to play songs. And it was very much, I think, the way that it was all connected to him just giving me that attention and time that the kid needs, and that, because I became obsessed with music, that was connected. So for him, it was kind of just showing me around Prague and teaching me, songs and stuff. And then that continued to grow and grow. Like, he got me my first guitar then, like for Christmas and stuff, which is just, because I suppose I wasn't really growing up with necessarily a father figure or an idol or anything, and he was just kind of there, and he gave me that. So that's kind of a huge part of what he did for me, besides the whole musical thing, that's completely a huge part of it. But I guess just someone being there, it's a very specific
wow
relationship for me.
Yeah, so it's beautiful that he sowed the seed of being able to find your own creativity within you, and also in many ways took you under his wing, and he's still doing that to this day, isn't he? He's still nurturing you, because I've seen a video of you playing. I guess you were 14, were you, when you were playing? There was a song you were playing in Bern, was it, somewhere like that? There's a video of you playing a long time ago. I don't know what the song was, but
there might be. Is it the Chelsea Hotel one? Would it
no, it's one of your own songs.
Sorry. Definitely there's I know what you mean. Is it with a band, or is it just
you with the band? There's a band, because there's a band, and Joe's on the bass, and
because he took it. Was funny. I mean, I had a band when I was 13 to 15, and he was he was like mentoring me through all of that. I remember sending him recordings. I probably was 14 at the thing you're talking about. I remember sending him recordings when I was like 13, and him just saying, this is brilliant. So now promise me you have to listen to this band called the Velvet Underground every day for a month, And so I remember listening to, Pale Blue Eyes and Sweet Jane and all of that. And yeah, it's great. I mean, for me, it's like, you know, when you think about it, because, yeah, so I'm 22 now, I'll be 23 in about a month and a half or whatever. I didn't even realize that my friends just, because I was like, oh, it's March already with the, you know. But for me, it's like even having to know someone for that long in my life, for now 12 or 13 years, is a big thing, you know. It's like, and the friendship's completely morphed, and now I'm just very grateful to be, like, I feel like we're just fellow artists, you know. But I can always send him a song, and you know, and he'll always kind of say what he thinks, or and sometimes it's very simple. It's just like, that's a great song, I love it, you know. And it's not like I'm asking for his approval or anything, but it's so nice to know that he's there. And yeah, so that's how that record came about, really, was that I graduated in Paris, and that was June 2023. And I remember, just because of that tour I told you about, all I wanted to do by that point was something I've dreamt of my entire life, was to grab my, you know, one guitar, my kind of backpack that can make itself smaller and bigger, you know, and just head off by myself. And I did, and I went straight to Ireland. And because I knew there was enough people, there was enough connections and friends and love, that I just, you know, lived and, yeah, went all around for months, you know, Dublin, Dingle, everywhere. Yeah, I was busking, and I was, for a couple of months I wasn't doing like many shows or anything, but it was the summer, you know, well, summer, how it can get over here. But yeah, anyway, I remember calling him and saying, look, you know, I have all these songs. I've been performing them since I was 15 now. I don't have any recordings. And because I don't know, somehow I've always gotten this anxiety, even though I recorded little bits with him when I was like 18, whatever, and I've been recording stuff. Even though I am very much someone who just likes to put stuff out there, I somehow felt like I was always pulled back from that. I always wanted to make it the best it can be before releasing it. And then I ended up never really releasing much, you know, which I think happens to a lot of people. And he was like, you know what, I actually have a few days here. That was July 2023. He said, just come over. And, you know, his baby was still tiny by then. But I came over, and we just had 2 days, 2 6-hour days in his back room. He has a rehearsal room, and we just had this one mic, and he was sitting behind the computer, and he just said, look, I asked him, you know, I had the idea of recording it on an electric guitar rather than an acoustic, which is kind of, I like that sound, you know, the kind of reverby thing. But that's all we did. I just recorded, you know, sat there, and it was so nice to have him there, because he wasn't at all, you know, trying to change anything, but he was just making tiny suggestions. And especially the Annie song we mentioned, like that, it was just tiny bits of when, you know, I sang it as very much as you say, like I'm talking to someone, but there's still those little wiggly things, you know, that the voice does, whatever. And I tend, you know, at that point, I mean, I was going all over the place, you know, because it was just the pure emotion. But to have someone there who's so good in the craft to just go like, okay, now do that properly, you know, sing that well. And it was just really, yeah, it was really amazing. And it was, so that whole record, it's like, it's really about that moment, you know. We never mixed it or mastered it or anything. And all he did afterwards was he like recorded a bit of guitar or tambourine, you know, or bass, and then I know he sent it someone to someone to record a bit of violin. But afterwards I was like, I really felt this thing inside me. I was like, okay, now I have to just put it out, because if this is gonna wait any longer, it's not gonna happen. So then I called him, and he was like, okay, you know what, I'll send it to you as it is, and you don't have to do anything with it, just, you know, release it like that. And I just had I you know, had quite a bit of the fear with that, because it just is like, by this point I think it's very hard releasing any music to make you feel like it exists, it's out there, you know, because you release something and a week later it's like, what happened with that, you know. So I was fortunate enough to manage to make, you know, a whole CD. And I was thinking, do I have one here with me? I probably have it upstairs, but you know, just to make it real, just to make the object real. but it is completely, you know, because I'm currently recording now with other musicians, and it's very much, you know, taking our time and getting everything right and fiddling with it, which is brilliant. But that was really just in the moment. It was him being like, look, okay, I know you want to get this thing out, let's do it. And it was just, in some of the songs you can hear the rain, you can hear his dog, you know, but it works. Like people always love the sound of it because it kind of just sounds live and raw, you know. That's why I called it Raw.
You got it right with that one. I think you all got it right, because it's, like everything is in tune with itself. It wouldn't necessarily be in tune with how modern music is made, but it's in tune with itself. And you're offering someone something that's authentic, right? And that's missing in music these days. So it's very important that we keep that aspect of it alive and well, because that's what you sound like when you play live, isn't it? You are that person. And I think that he obviously steered you in the right direction to be yourself, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm definitely, that's always going to be my, I don't know. And of course you need to, what did Picasso say? You need to learn the rules like a pro to break them like an artist. You know, of course, like it is so much about knowing, you know, that you do have to know in music, you like at some point the theory, the way it works, you know. And I know that I've always been relying much more on the way it feels to me, or the way I make people feel, you know, because I do think that that's something you need to have within yourself as well. Like I studied performing for 2 years, and it's great to see, like some people technically are just brilliant, like they can, you know, fall over backwards 3 times and it looks amazing. I can't do that, but like at the end of the day, when I'm singing or when I'm performing, I know that there's something that I touch in people, you know. And I think it's just all a mixture of that, you know, like how do you always, you know, you have the craft done well, but then you can kind of let go and have the raw aspect of it, you know, because I think the rawness is the thing that really is, that's the special part, right? But there's that little tiny like balance of how it's not totally like goes the wrong way, where it's just not good, and then you know,
it's a fine line. But I think what the raw is you being yourself and not being somebody else, you know. That's what you're doing there. What would you say to somebody else, because you're obviously very young yourself, but you've had a nice journey so far? What would you say to somebody else who's having trouble finding their own voice, who's now stuck in a world where AI music is taking over and it's very difficult to make yourself stand out? How do you allow them to get out of their own way? Or as I like to think about the box, to think outside the box, you need to know what the box contains, right? Otherwise you don't know you're outside the box. But what would you say to someone who's now, imagine you're Glenn and you've met someone who's 14 and you're like, okay, this is you. How do you find yourself?
Yeah. I mean, like what I can think of right now is exactly the way kind of what I've done. If someone is very, if they have it in them, if you know, I don't know if this is too kind of dreamy to say, but if it is somewhere in their heart, if that's what they really want to do, like what I did is I just took my guitar and went out on the street, and I was busking since I was 13, 14, you know. And it's just really going back to that. It's like, forget about, you know, what other people are doing, what other people are saying. Like, if this is what you want to do, just do it. You know, I know that might be a kind of a funny, you know, because I have been, the more I've grown confidence in myself, the more I try to encourage other people. And it is putting them on the spot sometimes, you know, like, you sing a song now, you know, and then you kind of have to put them in the safe space. But for me, it would literally be like, if you have the guts enough to, you know, to go out there, stand on the street and sing, and be prepared that, you know, anything can happen. I feel like at this, I don't know, for me, at this point where the world is, I actually rarely see people just, going out there and doing something and just taking their own, you know, their own ropes or whatever, steering their own wheel, because I don't know if people are kind of scared, or if they need, do you know what I'm talking about a little bit? Like, actually, I always thought that it wasn't that special when I was doing it as a kid. And then I realized that I don't see any other young people doing it that much. And then that's, of course, why I loved, like, I've been in Galway a lot the last year and a half. I was kind of living off and on there. And there's so many buskers that do just get out there and do it, you know, and people just do break into song and all of that. And that's I think something we're definitely losing, you know. And I can understand, like, it sometimes gets discouraging for me, like, just thinking of how much of it is already out there and how many people are out there doing it. And it's just like when you're having a bit of a moment, you know, and I always stop myself from having these, but I think when you're very creative, there can be a lot of kind of doubt coming in. But yeah, I guess I can't find anything else to say than just yeah, do it. Like, just take the instrument, get out there, scream in the street. Like, I just remember I was sounding like, I was just like, you know, when I was doing it. I don't know if it was any good at first. Yeah. But now people are like, you know, and whenever they're like, oh my God, how do you sound like this or whatever? And I think about it, like, I've been very patient, like the last 10 years I've been singing all the time, and I know that it's only now I'm happy with finding something the way I sound, you know, but you have to be so patient. I mean, that's half of my life given to it, and I still know there's so much work ahead of me, you know. So yeah, I would just say, like, do it, but also I think being patient is probably the biggest aspect I've learned about this, is like you have to keep believing, you know, and believing that it's going to happen and it's going to keep. And I've had the most amazing, like, year last year where I've had so many great things happen to me musically and creatively, but like up until that point there's almost these moments where you're like, wow, is this making sense? Am I moving anywhere, you know? And then something incredible happens, you're like, okay, fuck, this is all worth it. So yeah, like, yeah,
you're talking about the magic of Ireland, aren't you, as well? There's a very community orientated spirit to the country and a desire to tell stories, and it's nice to be held in that net. But you also have to be incredibly driven. I don't know if you realise how driven you are. I know you bust on the street to make money to make a record. So where did this drive come from then?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if I know or if I just think I know, you know. But it's when I met Glenn, and I guess, I don't know if he just, like, I'm sure there's many reasons for this, you know. I have an amazing friend who's really into astrology, and she calls herself a witch, and I kind of believe her because I'm an Aries, and there's so many things she says about me that I wouldn't have even, you know, like, I'm a fiery sign, and like, I just know, like, I think. And also, I think Aries are very stubborn and all of that, and ambitious. So once you set your mind on something, you're just going to have it and do it, you know, and there's no other way. And I think that's somehow, I just got, possessed after, I guess I just never felt anything like that when I started playing music. And I suppose because I wasn't, as I said, like all the other kids, I didn't really have friends, and I just was at home every day after school playing for like 8 or 10 hours, you know, and I was just obsessed. I really got obsessed, which I think is a very important thing to get probably as an artist. I suppose without getting obsessed, you don't really, you know, get there because you need to kind of keep working all the time. But yeah, I never even thought about this until a good while into doing stuff in music, because I guess for me it was just always it was just a given, it was just natural. But all I wanted to do was music, and I guess probably I do very much think that Glenn was a big part of it, because I just suddenly, you know, like when he got me that first guitar, you know how he's got like holes in his guitars because he just plays like a madman. So I actually, this is really funny, but I just really wanted to have a hole in my guitar just like him. And we ended up, it was, you know, because the guitar we bought was a fairly cheap one. It was just for me to start on. And we ended up buying this thing that used to scrub your old skin off your heels. And we got it.
A pumice stone, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he just drilled with that kind of the hole in the guitar. So my first guitar has a hole that Glenn, you know, made with that, because I just so badly wanted to have a guitar that looks exactly like his, you know.
The like distressed jeans. We should call it the Hansard stone and start selling them, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm working on one now that's actually there from playing, so that's good, you know.
Got scars all over my guitars as well. I wasn't trying to make a hole in it, but there's been moments when obviously you're at a festival, things are consumed, you get a bit crazy, and if there's a certain type of guitar wood, right, cedar or whatever it is, very soft, and I've got long fingernails, so it's all scratched and scraped, and I quite like it for that reason, giving it a style, giving it some scars, right?
But I love that because it tells a story. It's like this guitar I have now has gone with me to so many places, and it says every single story, you know. It has like the people that just get so touchy about that, you know, about how their guitars, whatever, you know, it just
Man, come on, it's terrible. It's what, like, if you want to abuse a guitar, don't play it.
Exactly. I like that. I love that. But yeah, and I don't know, I just remember I was 16 and this American singer that lives in Prague she approached me, and she's quite known over there, you know, and stuff. She does a lot of things. She was in a very known band, and she approached me if she can do an interview with me on TV, and I was like, okay, like, sure. And it was the whole thing, and that was the first time, maybe I never even thought about it before. It was just because when you're a kid, I think if you have a passion, if you're driven, that's the way I explained it for myself anyway, you just don't think about it, you just go out and do it. And that's what's beautiful that was in the show we did with Footsbarn. The last show was that there was a young boy and an old man talking, and they're talking about what's the difference between young and old, and he says that old people do things for a reason, and young people do things by instinct, you know. And I didn't see a reason in it, you know. And there was plenty of people in my mom's family that, you know, because they're a bit less artistic, just being like, you really think you're gonna make a living out of this, you know? I didn't care, but that's all I wanted to do, is completely all I wanted to do. And then I was doing this interview, and the woman was just like, so your mom just let you go out on the street like that all by yourself, just doing this? Like, I don't know if I would let my 14-year-old daughter just go off by herself, you know. And I was like, that's a really good point. But then she was just, you know, I guess she really brought that up, of how that's amazing, that I just was like, okay, I want to record an album of all of my own songs, so I'm gonna go. And, you know, obviously you're not drinking pints or whatever because you're still a kid, so you really do save every single cent. And I just saved everything, and I managed to make almost 1,000 euros in like maybe 9-10 months or something, because we were busking basically throughout the year. And I just went into the studio, and we recorded 8 songs that I wrote when I was 14, you know, and they're still out there with my baby voice and everything. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm afraid to tell you the name of the band though, because it's not a very...
You've got to say it now.
We thought it was cool because we were based in Czech Republic, and because I'm half English, but then now I understand it's very uncool, but I was 13. But it was Her English Blood.
Hey, that's okay.
It's okay, I know, but then, you know, sometimes talking to Irish people, it doesn't seem like it's that okay. But
yeah, well, if your grandfather's called Paddy Hayter and you've got Her English Blood, I think it could be a bit of a disastrous combination. But
yeah, it's funny. But yeah, so anyway, I have actually listened to some of it lately, and it's funny memories. But yeah, so I don't know, I really, like, I think it's only been quite recently that I have started questioning stuff, and not so much in a bad way, but just thinking about it at all. I suppose it was all kind of in me so naturally always that that was just what I was going to do, and there was no question, you know. And then there has been maybe, you know, because it is, I mean, it's I don't use the word impossible, but sometimes you find being very close to it if you're just trying to make it as a performing artist and a musician without having other work, you know, and all of that that kind of covers you up. but I just never questioned it. For me, that was how it was meant to be. And I'm amazed now by the drive. Like, I don't know many people my generation. Like, as I said, like, my friends are all between 35 and 85 age range, you know? So I never really got, and I think that was the thing, like, there's loads of just people my age. I don't know that many that would be so on top of things, that would just want something that badly, that they would give every, you know, they kind of just like, no, I don't want to be mean or anything, but like, you know, I feel a lot of the time they're taking their time and they just like to kind of, you know, mess around, and that's okay. But I never could relate to that, you know. For me, it was like, if I'm not doing much with my day, if I'm just lying around and I'm not, you know, getting out there and in one way or the other, you know, it's like, for me, it doesn't fulfill me, you know. It makes me depressed, actually, if I don't do anything in one day. So, you know, even
you had to combat your demons, though, didn't you? If you were naturally quite a shy child, I had the same thing. Didn't really fit into most environments, but when I get on a stage, that's my environment. Like, I'm happy there. That's great, and it's a place where you can talk about your inner fears and things like that, which it's what you do, right? Side Effect has to be one of those songs, right, where you're reaching from the inside to the outside, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what's the craziest part about it. I mean, so many people I've known or heard about, that's the thing, like, they're incredible performers, incredible actors, and then they were maybe they're still shy, maybe, you know. I mean, my grandpa Paddy gets terribly frightened and nervous and anxious about going on stage, and he's been doing it for over 55 years, but he gets completely in this, like, shaky, you know, and it's crazy because then he does it and it's like the most amazing performance ever, you know. And in a way, you never want to lose that. I think that's what the real beauty is of as I was saying, to make people feel something, is that you're vulnerable enough to it's like, it's more than being naked when you're up there, you know. You're emotionally naked. But if you go, you know, it's again, it's about that balance of getting up there and knowing what you're doing, but also still having that little part of you that doesn't completely, like still taking a risk and showing a little bit more than you can or than you want or than you need. Because if you go up there and you're just completely confident, you know exactly what you're doing, and you're like, you know, it also doesn't really touch people, because, you know, so it's that fine line between having the confidence of being up there and feeling natural about it and comfortable-ish, but also still being, you know, still showing that that part of yourself that is also maybe a little bit frightened or maybe a little bit unsure, you know. Because, I mean, there's not that many people that are, I think, like, there's that in every performer. And it took me a while, yeah, as you say, like, I just remember I was even scared of saying hello to people in the hallway, you know. I was like, I just never spoke. I was really, because I think there was so much happening around me, just taking it in, you know. And obviously that all changed around, and I think maybe that's what made me so passionate in the end, is I finally found something I can express myself with. And all of a sudden that just became, and it's funny because now it's like, it's so natural to me, and you know, that's how people describe it as well. But yeah, I never would have thought, I mean, as a kid, I thought it would be torture, you know. I absolutely hated that. But then I was so obsessed. Like, I think we did about 10-15 gigs a month when I was like 13. We were just, you know, no one was coming to the gigs by that point, but I was always on stage. And then, you know, you go from, oh, this song is called, you know, to, I hope you like it, to okay, let's do it, bitches, you know. I mean, not like that, but
you've
that's
got that
sure.
punk vibe. You've got that punk attitude when you play. I can see it, along with the delicacy. But there's an element of punk to you. I like that. You know, it's powerful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's someone, I was playing in Cavan on Friday, and someone said that my voice can be rustic and angelic at the same time. I did very much like that. But Yeah, no, Side Effect was, it's just, and you know, in a way I think it's a song that speaks for itself, and that's a song that's been incredibly important to me because I wrote it when I was 15. And as I was mentioning it before, like what happens I think for artists, right, is that you're like when you write something especially that young is like, oh, that was when I was 15, that was 7 years ago, like possibly, like surely I wrote so many better songs than that. And whenever I spoken to Glenn or to anyone really, but especially Glenn, he was always like, that's the best song you have, you know, like there's no. And then he got me up in San Francisco in the Fillmore, like a huge stage. He was like, that's the song you have to do. Because I wanted to do maybe something else. I said, no, this is the best. Like if you have one shot, if you have 3 minutes with these people, that's the song you have to do. Like there's no question, you know, that's the one. And it's crazy how it always ended up being the one when it's so simple in a way, and but it somehow I almost, you know, and it's funny because people often kind of laugh or whatever when I say I wrote that at 15, because the opening lyric is I've done a lot of living, you know. And again we adjusted maybe with Glenn like tiny bits of it, but still it very much stayed in the same spirit. And it's just saying that you have to have all these bad moments in life to appreciate the good ones, and the bad ones are the side effects, you know, to how brilliant life is. And somehow I had all of that in me then, and it's kind of crazy. It's mind-blowing to think about that now for me, like that I was in that headspace at 15, you know, and somehow I was. But it's totally a song that I think will always speak to me and hopefully to other people. But yeah, it's really.
You were
really
chosen though. I think you were chosen by a creative force to be the person who birthed that song, right? Because you'll always be able to draw upon the inspiration for that. It'll always make you feel something. And Glenn is right. You know, the first time people are going to hear you, it's the first time they've heard that song. It's not old for them. It's new. You know. One of the things I find myself doing is I'm always trying to go back to the old songs and go, I need to write a better one than that. But you don't, because you already have that. You can move on from that, you know?
No, it's incredible. I mean, it's, yeah, I suppose it was just, of course, it was hard for me to understand first as a 15-year-old, and then, you know, the older I got, how much that song is completely still there. And I suppose it's growing with me, you know? And yeah, it's great. It's amazing to have it as the start of the record. And yeah, as I said, it's all of this for me. It's like being at this point in my life is like, all, you know, 7 years or 5 years or being 15, like all that is actually huge, you know. I don't know how I'll be looking at this in 10 years or whatever, or where I'll be, but
let's talk about that then. So you've obviously had an amazing 2024. You've been on the road with Razorlight, things like that. Now you've got a new year ahead of you. You're making a new record. What's happening with the new record? Where are you doing that, and who are you doing it with?
So so far we're just working on a single, and we were gonna see how that goes, and it's going really well. Yeah, it'll be released under a label and everything. It's kind of, I've been actually working with the Razorlight people a little bit, with more the management, which is nice because it's you know, it's a completely different, like doing that tour was the opposite of what I'm used to with like Footsbarn and stuff, was like completely, you know, the other side of the world, which is cool. But yeah, so it's just kind of trying to, I'm always trying to push myself forward, obviously. So this is great because it's a new song I wrote that I suppose hopefully it'll be out in the next 2 months, the latest. But I'm very much in the process. You know, it's hard because it's almost all of it's there, but then you kind of have to wait when you know, with the release, and we're making a video for it, and so it's one of those where I'm very excited about it, but I still have to be patient, as I said, you know. But it's great because I'm working with other new musicians. So I have 2 really amazing guys that one of them plays a 6-string electrical violin. He's originally from Poland, but I met him through friends in Ireland. He lives in Cavan.
I've seen videos of him. I've seen him playing. He plays with a wah-wah pedal, right? I saw a video of you in the green note. Is that the guy?
Exactly, yeah. And he's amazing because he says, I hate the sound of a traditional violin. So he only plays this yoke, and it's just brilliant because it's like it's completely different. And it says, so it has 6 strings, so it can almost go to like a cello thing. And as it has 6 strings, it's electrical and stuff. And we just really clicked, we never even rehearse, we just kind of improvise, and we listen to each other so well. And it's been lovely because I hadn't played with other people for ages, like since I had that band when I was a kid. It kind of discouraged me a bit because it all went quite badly at the end, and I just decided to be in it for myself. But eventually the solo thing, I mean, it works well. Like I found an act where I can do it, but like it gets a bit lonely and buzzing of the energy of another musician. I mean, there's nothing like it, So with him, we just did a few gigs, and we just have these great sessions late into the night where we keep playing. And I had a tiny bit of a block after that Annie song. For a couple of years, because I was doing so much and moving around, I just didn't really sit still to write anything. And I was, and I know the inspiration in me was growing, but it wasn't coming out really in that way. And then after the Razorlight tour, I suddenly got very inspired, I think, because that was a big moment. Like I felt like a big achievement. So I started writing again. So now I have a few new songs. So there's one we just recorded that's going to come out, and it's got a bit of French in it as well. So it's got it's great working with them because there's a double bass on it, the violin, piano, and it's very much, I would say it's kind of timeless, like the style of it is great because it can be from jazz to folk to, so I'm excited about that. It's nice to, definitely, it's very much my own thing, I just like sent it to Glenn and he was like, this is great. But I was proud of it because it kind of all came really from me, and I trusted my decisions enough, and now I have these musicians in there I worked with, so I think it's definitely a great step up there. I hope it's going to be well received anyway. So
it's good. So you're ready to be yourself now, like having been supported so well and encouraged to find your own voice. You have your own voice. Now you're ready to go into the world, and I guess you'll be touring a lot this year, will you?
So to be honest now, for me, this year's, it's a bit of an open book for now, which is great. I love that because I've been, as I mentioned earlier, what happened is after graduating from Paris, I just went off, and I was like, I needed to do that for myself. And I've had an incredible year, like both music and acting wise. I did loads of different like movies. It's funny, I did a few projects in Irish. I was even like, my face was on this thing for the Galway Culture Irish Language Support Program, and I don't really speak any Irish.
You were also in Rosnaroon, weren't you?
I was on Rosnaroon. Yeah, I was playing a waitress on Rosnaroon. That was fun. So I did all these things, and I'm so happy. It was great. But I guess, I'm trying to keep going up, and I've had the most wonderful year. But I know every time I say that I'm tired or exhausted, people are like, you can't, you're only 22, But even just this last 2 months, I mean, I've been, in the last 5 weeks, I went from Paris to Czech, and I always take a bus, so it's like a 15-hour bus as well, so I did Paris, Czech Republic, then Dublin, Galway, then I did in like 3 days, like London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and then went back to France to rehearse, and then now I'm back in Ireland, and I'm going back to France in 1 week, So I'm just kind of trying to see how I can keep doing this, but also use my energy and, in a cleverer way, because I think I'm still someone who like follows the instinct. So I go after something, and that's great. But,
burnout's a thing though, isn't it? Burnout is a real thing when you're creatively fired up. You can burn out pretty quickly,
Yeah. So that's kind of my thing right now. I suppose I'm trying to be like keep the force that I've had, I suppose, all the time, but making it more more organized chaos and 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 it's a funny life, like, because things really do, they pop up sometimes last minute. I'm saying now, like, I don't know that many things I'm going to do this year. I'm saying that now, in a week that can all change, But it is definitely, I would like to yeah, my plan is trying to organize tours and seeing where, I mean, it's just been tough. Like, when, I think you would definitely know about that as well. You're organizing gigs for yourself, and then, like, I was up there in Scotland and like no one showed up to the Edinburgh gig, you know, there was no one there.
Right.
And I went all the way up there, you know, barely had a place to sleep or anything to eat, you know, and I was thinking, why am I doing this to myself again, you know? So I'm just trying to make it would be a way of putting it. But yeah, I have high hopes, like, for the song we're going to release. And I think definitely just finding ways to do things in this world right now, you know, like, I hate social media and all of that, but that's, you know, apparently that's what we're doing. So just kind of trying to find a way through that. And I've been fortunate that in the last few months I met people that are definitely willing to help me with that, you know, again. So yes, it just...
You're doing a great job. You're doing a really good job, Zoe. I think it's brilliant what you're doing. And I think I love the fact that when I listen to a record, I hear something I've not really heard before from someone in Ireland as well. There's an edge to it that sometimes is missing from music. And I love it. I've listened to it all the time. And, you know, I wake up in the morning and a side effect pops into my head and I'm like, what? I was just trying to sleep, and it's there. It's very powerful, you know. And I'm looking forward to seeing you play live, you know. I don't know. I'm hoping to be in Galway in May on tour myself. So if I'm around, it'd be great to have a cup of tea or something, you know, in person.
Absolutely. Oh, that's brilliant. No, thank you so much for saying that. That means so much. And yeah, thank you for all of this, because it's really, I mean, I'm very honored to have been asked, but I always love talking to, I feel like I don't do it enough, you know. Well, besides my whole technical thing, but in general, just talking to people enough about this, like, and then every time I do, I'm like, why don't I do this all the time? Because it does, you know, I mean, besides the fact that it's really just a great interaction, it always opens little doors in your head, you know, when you're talking to someone who just, asks.
That's the hope. The hope is that you look at your life and realize that you've already done a fantastic job, that you're creatively driven, you're writing songs that come from your heart, you've been well supported enough to be able to fly on your own. Sometimes it gets hard, sometimes we get tired, sometimes you do gigs when there's no one there. But that's only a part of your story. Your story is still yet to be written, and it's a beautiful story so far. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Are you able to play me a song with your... I know you're holding your phone, so it might...
No, it's fine. I think it should be... Yeah, I've given it a little power then. Yeah, I'd love to. You know what? I was thinking a little bit before what I would play, and I would really love to do the song we're going to release. And then I was like, should I do that? Because it's not out yet. But then from the second that we started talking, when you asked me about... the Annie song, I was like, that's the one I'd love to play for you, because I'm just so glad you asked about it. And I kind of I sometimes just play it for myself, you know, even if I don't do it during gigs, because it's a very, as you say, a really intimate, private one, and sometimes it's just not the moment. And I always love doing that, and I feel like it would be different again, like doing it after talking about it. So I can do that, absolutely. My drop my D. I'm gonna move this. So yeah, this is actually a Takamine Glenn managed to get me, because he's sponsored by them, and it's it's kind of getting there.
You've got your dent there, yeah, nice.
It's been going with me, but I have to be careful, because
Glenn's guitar has more hold than guitar, doesn't it? Like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have to be careful, because this is definitely my best one. But as I say, their wood is really, it's very soft kind of thing, but
yeah, it's vibey.
It has stories. Right.
Day we sat on the rock, you said you'd remember that night forever. Well, I tell you you're damn hard to forget. And I'm sorry if I've caused you trouble. And all I wanted was just to get to know you a little bit better. See your face in the daylight and talk about life when we're sober. Well, it seems that you've said goodbye. I'll just have to be a little bit stronger. And wherever the wind takes me now, I'd rather leave it. See you later. Annie, see you later. Annie, see you later. Annie, see you later. See you later. There was never a promise nor regret. It only got as messy as it can get. And I told you I wasn't good with words, no. The right ones only come once you've left. And I won't hold my breath. Just hope to see you again. And I'll never forget the way you said my name. And all I wanted was to jump off that cliff and fall into you forever. Stay here till the dead of night and sing that old Cohen song over and over. Annie, see you later. Annie, see you later. Annie, see you later. See you later.
Oh, I fucking love that. I love that, Zoe. That's so nice to be sung that song as well. That's beautiful.
Honestly, thank you so much. It's lovely. It's so lovely to sing it after having talked about it, and the lyrics and everything. It's a whole, it does kind of bring me right back into that moment as well, which is magic.
I can feel the warmth of energy coming over me from it as well, because I know a little bit more about the context. It makes me feel good about people, I think your music makes me feel good about people, and that the music of the young is still in good hands and still has a lot of power to add to me as well. I'm way older than you, but I'm feeling inspired,
Oh well, that means so much. I don't even know what to say. That's an amazing thing to hear. I suppose I can say that you're definitely making my Monday a whole lot of better than it would be.
That's brilliant. Well, I guess I can say I'll see you later then. I'll see you soon. That'd be really nice.
Definitely. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Cool. Zoe, thank you. I really, really love chatting to you. It's been beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been great. I could do it all day long. But
Yeah. Well, I'll see you in Galway hopefully. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so great. Well, take care. It was lovely to talk to you.
Mind yourself. Bye-bye. Bye.
And there you go. What a beautiful way to round off the podcast, eh? to finish with the very song that we kicked off with. And I have to say, over the course of talking to Zoe, I started to connect with my own muse in ways I haven't felt for a long time. That it's powerful to invite it into your life and let it sort of hang around rather than hunt it down. It's powerful to let it grow and trust that nature will help it to grow. It's beautiful to see the flow. And to come through someone as young as Zoe, she has a lot of experience, you know. I guess if she's been on the road from 14 raising money for albums and things with that work ethic and with the creative group she's part of, it's a beautiful thing to even glimpse. And I feel very, very good about moving forward myself. I feel very, very good about coming to Ireland to play, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with Zoe. But go on to Zoe's Bandcamp, go on to zoehayter.com, find out when she's playing, listen to her music, listen to it again, let it become a friend, because I have the feeling that this music is it's the type of music that matures as you mature. It's the type of music that grows with you. And it's like a very reliable thing. If I want to go into a certain space of mind, I'll listen to it. And Annie, See You Later, a beautiful song. So thank you, Zoe Hayter, and thank you all for listening. I'll see you next time around. Cheers. Bye.